This right here is a fucking classic beyond classics. First time I played this game was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I wasn't expecting much of it, but hot damn did I love it. This game was so much fun from beginning to end, with an experience that I wouldn't forget very soon. However, is this game still the masterpiece that I remember it being, or did it age much more than I thought? Let's find out. Okay, so there are two sides to the story. There's Jill Valentine's side of the story, and there's Chris Redfield's side of the story. The beginning of the story goes like this. There were mysterious killings happening in Raccoon City, and so the government sent the STARS Bravo Team unit. The Bravo Team unit consists of Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Joseph, Barry Burden, and their captain, Albert Wesker. But Joseph gets eaten shortly after by the pack of devil dogs, and they chased after the rest of the team. Joseph! While running away from the dogs, the team found this mansion to hide inside, and they ran to the front door. Now I'm gonna tell Jill's side of the story first. So Jill notices that Chris is not with them, and he must have left somewhere. They heard a gunshot, so Jill and Barry investigated. However, what Jill found was beyond her understanding. She finds one of her teammates being eaten by some kind of monster. A monster she's never seen before. Barry kills the monster, and now they're on their way to tell Wesker. But then Wesker just up and fucking vanishes. Barry and Jill decided they needed to split up, and for some reason Jill is the master of unlocking? What?
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
God, this is gonna be fun. Jill searches around the right side of the mansion and is about to get smushed into Flatty Jill until Barry saves her.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
Jesus, Jill, did you go through puberty? Anyway, Jill's feeling a little suspicious that Barry's not on his side of the mansion, and there's this extremely long pause when Jill asks why he wasn't on the other side of the mansion, and it really doesn't help his case.
But Barry, didn't you say you're going back to the dining room to do some research? Why on earth are you here?
I just had something I wanted to check.
Anyway, the story kind of drops after this point until the end, but there are some notes that I found in this game that help add more lore into this mansion and the zombies themselves. For example, there was a journal I found about a scientist. In this journal, he talks about how he takes care of some monsters that they have. This time, he's taking care of something that he defined as a gorilla without skin. He fed them live food and they took apart its guts and ate away. He woke up in the middle of the night to his co-worker Scott saying that he needed to wear some protection suit because there was an accident in the lab. He wore that thing for a few days and he's starting to feel itchy and his skin is looking weird and musty. However, the doctor said he didn't need to wear the suit anymore. And the more days keep passing, the more there's something wrong with him. Like blisters on his foot. And he's not even allowed to leave on his day off. Hell, he was scratching his arm one day and rotten flesh dropped off. The last few entries of this journal contained him spelling very weirdly and saying crazy shit. Such as this: fever gone but itchy. Hungry and eat doggy food. Itchy, itchy, Scott came. Ugly face so killed him. Tasty. And the last entry is itchy, tasty. While this was unsettling to read, it's also kind of fucking hilarious. Not only can a zombie spell and write, albeit like a fucking caveman, but he likes to eat dog food? Is that how humans taste to them? Like fucking dog food? This was both equally creepy and downright the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in a zombie game. However, Jill finds a teammate called Richard, and he got bit by a giant poisonous snake. And so Jill looks for a serum. She tries to give him the serum, but then he dies. Well, that was fucking worthless. And the snake is fucking huge! Kill it, Jill! But the snake shortly escapes after. However, Jill finds a secret dormitory that's hidden underneath the mansion, and we find some pretty interesting stuff. The person who owned this mansion was keeping fucking sharks, spiders, and lizards, I guess, underneath his mansion. And we also find out that the thing that's making these zombies and devil dogs is called the T-virus, or Tyrant virus. It can even affect plants and make them into killing machines. Jill actually finds Wesker in the dormitory as well, and he says to check out the mansion again. That's it? Jill, how do you not find this guy slightly suspicious? And this is great right here. Jill finds a note called Orders. And check out these orders. Number 1, lure the members of STARS and have them fight with the BOW in order to obtain data of actual battles. Number 2, collect 2 embryos per BOW type, making sure to include all species except for Tyrant. And number 3, destroy the Arkley lab, including all researchers and lab animals in a manner which will seem accidental. And the signature at the end is from White Umbrella. So it seems like everything that's happened during this whole game was planned to a T. And what the hell is this BOW? Jill goes into this room and holy shit, the snake's back! But Jill kills it and finds a hole in the ground that the snake made, but Barry comes in. He has some rope and helps Jill get in the dark hole, but once she made it down there, Barry accidentally dropped the fucking rope and he said he'll come back. Depending on if you wait or not, it will affect the story, but in my game, I left. However, Jill found an underground tunnel underneath the mansion and finds one of her comrades, Enrico. Enrico says that someone in the STARS team is a traitor.
Listen, the stars are going to be finished soon. Someone is a traitor. Everything was plotted from the start by Umbrella.
Jill finds a secret lab, and in this lab she finds a projector and some slides for it. And the slides show the monsters that she encountered in this whole time, such as Cerberus, Neptune, and the Hunters. But it also shows this thing called the Tyrant. And then the big reveal, the R&D team of Umbrella. One of them being our captain, Albert Wesker. This is actually a pretty good twist. Like, it didn't make a big deal out of it, but your reaction when looking at this was like, holy shit, it's Wesker! Jill finds Chris locked up in the lab and now she needs to get him out. But hey, it's Barry! And fuck, it's Wesker! Whoa, Barry, why are you pointing that thing at Jill? Oh my god! Yep, Wesker is taking Barry's family hostage, so now Barry turned against Jill. But Wesker wants to show Jill something. It's the Tyrant! He says it's the best biological weapon in the world. A perfect form. It seems like Wesker loves this thing. It's kind of fucking weird, actually.
This is really beautiful. All this power will be mine.
Wesker lets out the Tyrant to try to kill Jill, but instead the monster looks at Wesker and murders him! Absolutely penetrates his ass! Jill kills the Tyrant and saves Chris. But when they were leaving, they find Barry dying on the floor from blood loss, and this shit killed my heart.
Jill, will you do me a favor? This is my last wish. Please give this photo to my family. Will you?
Sure.
Forgive me, Jill. My God!
Look at that family. It's sad knowing that the family will never be the same again. But Jill and Chris make it to the helicopter port and escape with their lives. But the Tyrant is still out there. And so is the lab containing the T-virus. This ending isn't canon, but it's the one I got. The actual canon ending involves Barry living and the characters destroying not only the Tyrant, but exploding the whole lab. And now we got Chris's story, and the thing about Chris's story that is basically a retelling of Jill's. I mean, yeah, there's some slight changes here and there, but it's not much. For example, Chris fights the snake, and Jill's actually the one that's locked up in the fucking lab instead of him. Another change is that instead of Barry, there's Rebecca. And I fucking love her. Rebecca Chambers is an absolute sweetheart who I feel is a little too young to be a fucking cop, but okay. She's gullible, but she's determined, always helping Chris with whatever situation he's in, and even saving his life on many occasions. Her and Chris's relationship is so wholesome. I love hearing these two talk. Look at this shit.
I think you will be alright because I gave you a shot. But please be careful.
You saved my life. I owe you one.
It seems like this bulletproof jacket is pretty strong.
I see.
How about Captain Wesker?
He is sleeping with the ultimate failure.
Then we got Chris and Albert Wesker, and their conversation is basically the same as Jill's, except this scene happens that I just love.
This is the ultimate life form. Tyrant. Chris? Stop it.
Why does he sound so hurt that Chris is laughing? He sounds like an insecure little bitch. Overall, the story is pretty goddamn similar, but again, I love Chris and Rebecca's relationship. I think the relationship as a whole is the reason why I prefer Chris over Jill. But hey, Barry is still a really good character. The story's pretty simple overall, but I love the amount of mystery it has with Umbrella, the T-virus, the Tyrant, and all the other monsters. It's so invigorating. Not to mention that I actually like the characters that they have in this game. With the only character that I don't really like that much being Chris. I feel like Chris is just so bland. The only time he's not bland is when he's with Rebecca. And even then, he says some stupid ass shit like this fucking joke. I love this joke and I hate this joke. You see, when Rebecca killed the plant by poisoning its root, this is what he says.
Oh, I can't believe it. Are you okay?
Yeah, so much for him. We got to the root of the problem.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
But overall, guys, this story is pretty goddamn great. The visuals of this game, well shit, this is gonna be a little bit hard. Okay, in terms of graphics, this game aged like fucking milk. This game looks fucking terrible. You can't see the faces of the character models and they're so fucking blocky in a very PlayStation way. Not beautiful blocky like Nintendo, you know what I mean? But I will say that the enemies look pretty goddamn great, actually. While the zombies look blocky like the characters, I think it works in the zombies' favor of being gritty and ugly. It makes them look fucking disgusting in a very atmospheric way that really sets the tone. And then we got the other enemies, like the dogs. The dogs look decent. The hunters look mighty fucking fine for a PlayStation 1 game. Holy shit. Look at the spiders, man. Oh my god. The enemies look pretty goddamn good, especially when compared to the fucking humans. And also, this game has FMVs. You know, full motion videos? Because of course it does, it's a PlayStation 1 game. The FMVs don't look bad per se, but there are some that just look so fucking awful. However, FMVs are stupid nostalgic, I'll give you that. And who doesn't love the first scene when you see a zombie in the game? Oh my god. That scene is so iconic that it became replicated many times over in the sequels. Still fucking amazing. But they even got real life people to play the characters as if they were in a horror movie or something. There's this really cheesy cutscene in the beginning of the game showing the STARS cops with Jill, Chris, Barry, and Wesker, and goddamn do they look accurate. If they ever made a Resident Evil movie with these guys, I wouldn't actually mind it. They look pretty goddamn good. I just find it a little odd that they changed from these blocky graphics to real life people. It's just so off, you know? It throws you off a little bit. But I think this game's visuals age decently in terms of the environment. You see, my friends, this game was made in an age where a lot of games were using pre-rendered backgrounds. Basically, that means that the location that you are in at the moment in the game is not real time. The backgrounds of the game were made beforehand so the game doesn't have to process these locations in real time, thus limiting the amount of CPU that every area of the locations use. Not only that, but it can make the backgrounds for a game look absolutely beautiful if done right, such as Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Cross. Pre-rendered backgrounds seem like a fucking no-brainer, and I'm glad to say that Resident Evil's backgrounds don't look that bad. It's not as good as other games. Hell, the fucking Resident Evil sequels did this much better, especially Nemesis, oh my god. But this game's backgrounds are nothing to scoff at as well. Also, the mansion lets out a very eerie feeling with the visuals. People might consider the emptiness to be a negative, but in my opinion, it enhances the horror experience. There are a lot of rooms that have almost nothing in them, and it gives you a very peculiar feeling. I like the pre-rendered backgrounds of the mansion, but I think outside of the mansion looks great. The underground tunnels are very well made, the garden is so dark yet colorful with the plants, and the lab gives me Cabin in the Woods and Nightmare on Elm Street vibes with these locations. I really like the visuals of this game, and while the models aren't the greatest, the locations are pretty good for its time. And now for another mood setter. The soundtrack. The soundtrack for this game is just bone-chilling, sinister, 90s horror movie music that just really fits the game. I feel like I'm playing an old school horror movie, and that works really well with this game. Also, the boss fight music is so loud and out of nowhere that I find it so perfect. It's like it scares the shit out of you when you get into a new room. You're like, oh shit, it's a boss fight! But one piece of music in this game that I thoroughly enjoyed was the item box room theme. When you go into a room with an item box, it plays the most relaxing song in the entire game, and even that music is creepy as shit. It gives me similar vibes to the Song of Healing from Majora's Mask, where it's eerie yet peaceful at the same time. The soundtrack really sets the mood, and I love it. The sound design is also just great. The doors opening is so good. I never thought I would say that about any game. But there's something amazing about being in a room with music, and then when you open a door, the music just completely fucking leaves. It makes you feel anxious, like you don't know where the hell you're gonna go. Like, what's behind that godforsaken door? Also, the zombies sound great when they eat you. It just sounds so crunchy. Oh my god. And who doesn't love when you shoot a zombie's head off with a shotgun? Let's be honest, guys. Sound design is great, but then we got Then we got the voice acting. Jesus fucking Christ, this was definitely before the days of Metal Gear Solid, friends. You see, guys, this game probably has the best and worst voice acting I have ever heard in a video game. I swear to God, I feel like there's absolutely no direction of what tone they're supposed to be using in their lines. I'm not sure if the director was bad or the actors are just trash, but holy shit, I love it. I absolutely love it. Coming back to this game is fucking great because the lines are so bad that it is the funniest horror game I have ever played. Barry fucking Burden is the funniest character in this whole game. Watch this shit and try not to laugh.
I'm going with you. Chris is our old partner, you know.
What is it?
Anyway, let's report this to Wesker. Okay, let's separate again.
Just a moment. I found something.
What is it?
It's a weapon. It's really powerful, especially against living things. Take it with you.
But how about you, Barry?
I have this.
And obviously we can't forget about the possible most iconic line in the history of Resident Evil. The Jill sandwich line.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
I love everything about this scene. It's spectacular. The voice acting for me is just peak entertainment, and while others find it annoying, I find it very fun to come back to. But there are times where the voice acting isn't that bad. The best example being a very spoiler-heavy scene, and the actor felt like he tried to give me a sad scene, and I was moved. Anyway, I really like the presentation for the game, both ironically and unironically. This game does decently at setting a B-horror movie mood, and it helps out a lot. I feel like Resident Evil wouldn't be what it is without these things, so I applaud them for making this game iconic. The gameplay of Resident Evil is perfectly designed in my honest opinion. I really enjoy the simplistic yet complicated gameplay of Resident Evil, and I'm going to explain how it works and why I think it's near perfection. So I think the first thing we need to talk about are the controls, as they are still controversial to this day. You see, they decided to make tank controls in this game. Nowadays, tank controls are seen as a negative thing in the gaming community, mostly because they are clunky as shit and terribly used in most of the games that they were used in. You guys remember Bubsy 3D? Well, that didn't fucking work, did it? Like, naturally, that shit doesn't work with platformers, but even games like Mega Man Legends just felt fucking terrible. I hated that shit. Mega Man was so weird to control, it didn't feel natural, and the animation was terrible. Look at this. However, the way they implemented the tank controls in Resident Evil is genius. I think a survival horror game is perfect for tank controls, and it's actually really easy to learn if you take the time to try it out. Let me explain exactly what tank controls are. You guys see this controller? Well, look at the D-pad. If you hold up on the D-pad, the character will move forward, but if you hold down, the character will move backward. If you click right or left without moving, it'll rotate you in the direction that you're clicking in. However, if you press left or right when holding up, you will navigate to either left or right, so like you'll move either left or right. Now, this may seem fucking obvious and shit, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to fuck these controls up. But how they make the controls work for Resident Evil are the camera angles. Instead of controlling the camera manually, the game uses a fixed camera instead. Which basically means that the developers put a camera in a specific place that they themselves want you to see. I like this because it usually helps out with the gameplay by making very important things visible for the player right in plain sight. And the camera angles switch a lot when you're moving, but instead of having to change directions if the game had normal controls, the tank controls help the character move forward no matter what angle you're in. That is why the tank controls are so genius to me. I don't know if I explained it in a way that you guys can understand, but that's just how I see it. The camera angles and tank controls work hand in hand to make a fun control system that's easy to learn but hard to master. However, tank controls do have some cons, like the fact that you can't turn 180 degrees fast, so you have to slowly rotate your ass while not moving, and when you're fighting against these fucking things that jump at your ass and can combo you into a corner, it's kinda irritating. But overall, the controls are tight and work really well. Now we have the core gameplay of Resident Evil, and this is my favorite part. In the beginning, you can either choose to play as Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield, each one giving you a different story and slight changes to the main quest, but not too different to where they're completely different experiences. But we'll talk about that later. You see, let me talk about how Jill works in this game. Jill Valentine has 8 item slots. She has a lockpick that allows her to open up locked desks that give her additional ammo to her weapons. She has a multitude of weapons that she can find in the game, like a shotgun, my baby, the bazooka, my super baby, and the revolver. So Jill seems pretty cool, huh? Well, Chris is the fucking opposite of that. Chris. I fucking hate playing as Chris. Chris has 6 item slots instead of 8. He doesn't have the lockpick, so he has to find these small keys to open up the locked desk I was talking about that have ammo in them, by the way. It's actually harder for him to get the shotgun for some reason, and he doesn't have the bazooka. They took away the bazooka, which I may say is the best weapon in this whole game and practically carried my ass to the end since I used it on almost every enemy that's not a fucking zombie or a dog. Chris is without a doubt the hard mode in a game that's already pretty goddamn challenging. Chris is basically the stripped down shittier version of Joe Valentine, and I have no idea what the hell they did that for. I would have been completely fine if he just has the same things that Jill has, but they just changed this fucking story to where it's completely different from Jill. Almost like you're experiencing a whole different part of the mansion. But no, you experience the same parts of the mansion that Jill does. But apparently they think, oh, don't worry, he has more health. Which I didn't even notice, by the way, because he had twice the amount of enemies that Jill has in her campaign. Why? Why are you doing this to me? Chris is a strenuous fucking character to play as. He's not fun. He only has 2 redeeming qualities. His story and the fact that he's way easier and more straightforward to get the true ending with than with Jill. But I'm sorry, I could care less about the true ending because Chris just fucking sucks. But now let me talk about how this game works. How this game works is that you're in a huge mansion and you need to find a way out. That's it. That's basically this game. This game consists of you having to find keys to open locked doors, and those doors usually have items that take you farther and farther into the mansion. You can even find a map as early as 5 minutes that show you the map for the first floor. Now, I love the map system in this game. Look at it. The red is where you are currently, the green are places you've already been to, the yellow are doors, and the gray are areas that you have not explored, either because you haven't opened the door to the area, or it's locked and you need a specific key. Because of this, the game reminds me of a Metroidvania, where you explore areas to find items that open other areas until you get to the end of the game. And that's exactly how Resident Evil works, except the game consists of you solving a lot of puzzles to find the important items to progress the story. And the best part about the game is that it gives you a goal really early on, and that's this. 4 item slots for Crest that will open this door that leads to the garden of the mansion. And so what do you do after seeing this? Well, you're trying to find those fucking crests is what you're trying to do. These crests are found by doing puzzles in the mansion. Like this puzzle where you need to press specific switches about somebody's life. Like clicking on the newborn baby, then the infant, then the boy, then the young man, then the middle-aged man, and then the old guy. And it opens the painting that has the crest waiting for you. This system is genius and it's so rewarding when you solve these puzzles and get the necessary items to continue. This game will not stop giving you dopamine. I love when I find an item and it clicks in my head when I need to use it. Like this time where you find a gold shield, but the door closes behind you so you're forced to put the gold shield back. But I remember picking up a wooden shield from the dining room a while back. So I'm like, oh shit, I need to put the wooden shield in place of the gold one. And when it worked, I felt like a fucking genius. And then I was stuck for a while because I had no new key and I needed this specific key called the shield key. But I explored every area that I could explore. But then I walked to the dining room and I looked at the shield holder and I was like, wait a minute. I grabbed my gold shield so fast, and when I put the shield in the place where I found the wooden one, it unlocked the safe to the shield key that I needed. Which took me to a room that had the final crest that I needed to get to the garden. This game flows so seamlessly and it works so beautifully. I love it. The puzzles in this game are fantastic, and the best part about them is that they are common fucking sense. I have not used a guide in this game, not even once, because the puzzles never drove me insane to the point where I felt like I needed the guide. And the hardest to solve puzzles in this game are usually the most fun and memorable puzzles in the game. So I applaud this game for making puzzles that actually use your brain instead of making stupid, nonsensical shit that Einstein couldn't have even figured out. I'm looking at you, Zelda. However, the biggest con with this game is backtracking. So you might be wondering, what the hell do you do when you fill up your item slots? Well, there are these specific rooms in the game that have a typewriter and an item box. This item box is where you can store the items that you don't need at the moment. And the best part is that these item boxes are linked together. So no matter what box you put the item in, every box in the game will have your item. This is actually really great, but the problem with this is that when you realize that you need a specific thing that you kept in your item box, that means you gotta backtrack to the closest item box near you, grab the item, and then walk back to the place that you needed to go to. Are you kidding me? And then there are times where you found an important item, but you don't have the space to grab it. So you need to find an item box to leave your non-important items in. This could get tiring as fuck sometimes, but it's not that bad when you're playing as Jill. It's when you're playing as fucking Chris that this whole thing falls apart! Because you only have 6 slots instead of 8 like Jill. That increases your backtracking by the double! Fuck Chris! Fuck Chris! Fuck Chris! Oh, and did I already say fuck Chris? And also, let me talk about this real quick. The saving. You see, guys, to save, you need to find a typewriter, which are in the same areas as the item boxes. But the problem is, you need ink ribbons to save, meaning that even your saves are limited as well, meaning that you could possibly not be able to save anymore if you're not wise with your saves. However, I love this. It gives the game a lot more tension and it makes you so happy when you find one. It gives you like a sense of relief. Also, they give you way more than necessary to actually beat the game, so I don't think this limits the game by any stretch of the imagination. However, because this game doesn't auto-save and you need to save manually with the typewriter, there were a lot of times, and I mean a lot of times, where I did like an hour or two of progress and died, and I needed to redo that whole hour or two of progress. And you can best believe it was Chris that I died the most on. Fuck you, Chris! Okay, now let me talk about the combat, as this is very important to the game as well. Now, I would say that the combat is bad because of the tank controls, but you know what? It's actually not that bad. The first few enemies that you're going to be fighting are the zombies and the dogs. The pistol is terrible. Fucking shit. It takes way too many shots to kill the zombies, and sometimes they're not even dead. They come right back up, so you gotta shoot them even more and waste more ammo, and oh god. No, just no. But I will say that the pistol is great against the dogs. Only takes about 4 shots, I believe, so yeah, not that bad. But then you get the shotgun, and the shotgun is a definite improvement. You would one-shot zombies until the cows come home, and all you gotta do is aim up, and when the zombie comes close, you shoot the bitch. But then as you get farther into the game, like the garden in the dormitory, you find other enemies such as the hunter. This fucking thing sucks! After you see the first one, when you finish the dormitory, the mansion is full of these fucks in almost every spot in the mansion, and they hit hard. Not only that, but they completely disadvantage you with the tank controls because not only are they unbelievably fast, but if you're far from them, they jump to you and it's almost impossible to dodge it. However, the shotgun doesn't take many shots to kill it, but then you have the bazooka. Oh, and it's a whole different story here. This is another reason why I love Jill's story more, because she has the bazooka, and the bazooka one hits the hunters. This made it way more bearable to come across these fucking things. It made me feel less anxious, and I didn't have to use much healing herbs. Oh yeah, we also have herbs. Green herbs heal you, red does nothing, but when mixed with green, it triples the healing effect. And blue is an antidote for poison, but you can mix it with green so they can also heal you. It's really great shit. I love the herb system. And there are even first aid sprays that heal the shit out of you. And you can see your health when you pause the game, as it tells you when you're fine, when you're at caution, or when you're in danger. Which basically means, motherfucker, if you don't heal, you're gonna die. And when you're in the lab, there are these weird skinless zombies that even when you kill, they seem to respawn when you come back into the area. That shit got on my nerves a bit, but it wasn't something I couldn't handle. The other areas in this game are actually really fun as well and way more linear than the mansion. While the mansion is massive, with a lot of rooms and 2 floors, the other areas in this game are kind of straightforward and take you to where you need to go. The garden and the dormitory being a prime example of this. The dormitory is very linear, but very fun, with one of the best puzzles in this game, the V-Jolt puzzle. I loved figuring out the right combo of chemicals to make the V-Jolt, and I loved it even more because math was a big part of the equation here. With some slight algebra shit, where the numbers mean specific chemicals, kind of like variables, where A equals whatever the fuck. It was a really fun brain teaser, and when you created the V-Jolt, man, did you feel like a boss. And then the lab, which I thought was really great story-wise, and it was also really straightforward. With some slight non-linearity here and there, but overall, really linear. And the puzzles were fucking awesome, too. Like this puzzle where you found this letter with a code. And this code looks like ancient times language. And then you find a poster with the same language, but there's a black light in the room that allows you to see what it says in English. So you keep switching back and forth until you make the English translation from the code in the paper that you found, and that was actually mole, surprisingly. I really like the areas in this game. Every single one of them was fun to explore and had amazing puzzles. I really love playing as Jill Valentine. Her gameplay is so much fun and balanced to a T, in my opinion. While Chris is fucking dog shit and should never be touched. Seriously, why the hell was he even here? Overall, the gameplay was fucking incredible and, in my opinion, fantastically designed. While I like the combat, I don't think boss fights necessarily work in this game. I fucking hate the snake boss that you fight twice in this game, and I swear it's almost impossible to dodge him. I always gotta bring the bazooka and healing items for these fights. But then there are actual fun bosses, like the spider boss, or the final boss. I love the final boss. He's easy, don't get me wrong, but holy shit, blowing his ass up with the fucking rocket launcher is just so good. And there was a cutscene where it replayed like 3 different times. I love it. It's just so cheesy, but so good. But to get to the final boss, you need to do some requirements. There are multiple endings in this game, but I think that Chris's true ending is a lot more straightforward and easy to do compared to Jill. Chris's true ending was so easy to get, in fact, that I didn't even need a guide to tell me how to get it. But Jill? Well, Jill is a whole other thing. For Jill, you gotta do a lot of shit, and some of the shit is so old school cryptic that I have no idea how anyone figured it out. Like waiting for fucking Barry to get the rope. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? No one would think that this dude would actually come back for you. But for Chris, it's as simple as letting Rebecca come with you and saving Jill by finding 3 MO discs and putting them in individual fax machines that are all in the same lab. So you don't even have to backtrack to get the codes. And finding the disc was easy as shit. Sometimes I found them by mistake. So if you have a curious side, you're definitely gonna find the MO disc. Overall, Endgame was the shit, and the true ending is a lot of fun. Resident Evil is a butt ton of fun, with a simple yet intriguing story, hilarious voice acting that I can't get enough of, amazing music that fits the B-horror movie mood, the well-designed and lucrative gameplay. This game has it all. While Chris was complete dogshit and is only there to give you a fucking aneurysm, I think Jill Valentine makes the whole game really fun for me. So I don't think Chris drops the game that much, but he does drop it a little, so I have to give this game a 9 out of 10. Wonderful game, and a definite survival horror classic. So Resident Evil is a classic above classics in the PlayStation 1 era. But now, we gotta move on. We gotta move on to a whole different genre. I don't even know what I'm gonna do next, but stay tuned for it. I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.